Azazel in the Bible, Leviticus 16:8-10. Azazel is mentioned in the Old Testament, specifically in the instructions for the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur. According to Leviticus, 2 goats were chosen. One was sacrificed to God as a sin offering. The other was sent into the wilderness for Azazel, carrying the sins of the Israelites. The exact meaning of for Azazel has been debated. Some scholars interpret Azazel as a place in the desert where the goat was released. Others view Azazel as a spiritual being, possibly a demon or fallen angel, to whom the scapegoat was symbolically given. A third interpretation is that Azazel represents the personification of sin, with the scapegoat symbolizing the removal of sin from the people. Regardless of the interpretation, Azazel is closely associated with the concept of transferring sin away from the community. 2. Azazel in the Book of Enoch. In the Book of Enoch, an ancient Jewish text that expands on Genesis 6:1-4, Azazel is portrayed as one of the Watchers, a group of angels who descended to earth and rebelled against God. According to this account, Azazel taught humans forbidden knowledge, including warfare, metalworking, weapon making, and cosmetics. He corrupted humanity by introducing vanity, violence, and sorcery. He was seen as one of the primary instigators of sin, leading to increased wickedness on earth. As punishment, God commanded the archangel Raphael to bind Azazel in the desert and imprison him in darkness until the final judgment. This mirrors the concept of demons being cast into the abyss in later Christian theology. 3. Azazel and his connection to Satan. Although Azazel is not explicitly identified as Satan, some interpretations see him as a similar figure. Like Satan, Azazel is portrayed as a corrupting influence who teaches humans things that lead them astray. His punishment, being bound in darkness, resembles the fate of Satan in Revelation 20:1-3. In some occult traditions, Azazel is associated with Lucifer or other demonic figures, often linked to rebellion and forbidden knowledge. Despite these similarities, Jewish and Christian traditions generally keep Azazel and Satan as distinct entities. 4. Azazel's influence in religious and cultural thought. Azazel's story has influenced various religious and cultural beliefs. In Jewish mysticism, he is sometimes viewed as a fallen angel or demon responsible for leading humanity into sin. In Christianity, the scapegoat ritual in Leviticus has been interpreted as a foreshadowing of Jesus Christ, who carries away the sins of humanity, making Azazel a symbol of atonement and judgment. In popular culture, Azazel has appeared in literature, movies, and television shows, often depicted as a dark, supernatural being. 5. The legacy of Azazel. Azazel remains one of the most enigmatic figures in religious history. Whether seen as a demonic being, a rebellious angel, or a symbolic representation of sin, his story continues to inspire theological debates and artistic interpretations. His presence in both biblical and extra-biblical texts highlights the ongoing human fascination with the struggle between good and evil, knowledge and corruption, and the consequences of disobedience. Azazel in the scapegoat ritual. Azazel plays a crucial role in the scapegoat ritual described in Leviticus 16:8-10, which was part of the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. This ritual was performed by the high priest to cleanse the sins of the Israelites. According to the biblical instructions, 2 goats were chosen. One goat was sacrificed to God as a sin offering. The other goat was sent into the wilderness for Azazel, carrying the sins of the people away. The high priest would lay his hands on the scapegoat, symbolically transferring the sins of the nation onto the animal. The goat was then released into the desert, effectively removing the sins from the community. The meaning of for Azazel has been widely debated. Some interpretations suggest that Azazel was a desert demon or fallen angel, representing the forces of sin and impurity. Others believe that Azazel was simply a remote place where the goat was abandoned, emphasizing the idea of sin being cast far away. Regardless of interpretation, the ritual served as a powerful symbol of atonement and purification, ensuring that Israel's sins were removed, at least temporarily. This concept later influenced Christian theology, where Jesus is seen as the ultimate scapegoat, taking upon himself the sins of humanity. Azazel in the Book of Enoch. In the Book of Enoch, Azazel is one of the Watchers, a group of 200 angels who descended to earth and rebelled against God. Unlike other fallen angels, who were mainly tempted by human women, Azazel played a more sinister role. He corrupted humanity by teaching forbidden knowledge. According to 1 Enoch 8:1-3, Azazel introduced weapon making, teaching men how to forge swords, shields, and armor, leading to increased warfare. Cosmetics and jewelry, teaching women how to use makeup and adornments, which was seen as a source of vanity and seduction. Sorcery and astrology, revealing hidden celestial secrets that humans were not meant to know. Because of his influence, violence and sin spread rapidly across the earth. The giants, Nephilim, offspring of the Watchers and human women, further contributed to the corruption of humanity. Seeing the devastation, the archangels Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel pleaded with God to intervene. As punishment, God commanded Raphael to bind Azazel in the desert, throwing him into a deep pit in the wilderness of Dudael. He was to remain there, in complete darkness, until the final judgment, when he would be cast into the fire. Unlike some other fallen angels, Azazel's sin was so great that he was specifically blamed for human corruption. The book of Enoch even states that all sin shall be ascribed to Azazel, emphasizing his role as a source of wickedness. Azazel's fate serves as a warning about the dangers of forbidden knowledge and rebellion against divine order. His story has influenced later traditions about fallen angels and their punishment, shaping both Jewish and Christian demonology. Azazel and his connection to Satan. The figure of Azazel in ancient Jewish and Christian traditions shares several striking similarities with Satan, leading many scholars to draw connections between the two. While Azazel is not explicitly identified as Satan in the Bible, certain elements of his story, particularly in texts like the Book of Enoch, align him closely with the characteristics of the adversary and the tempter that Satan represents in later Christian theology. 1. The role of Azazel as a corrupting influence. Azazel's role as one of the Watchers, fallen angels, who descended to earth and taught humanity forbidden knowledge is significant. In the Book of Enoch, Azazel is held responsible for introducing warfare, teaching the crafting of weapons, cosmetics, and vanity through the introduction of beauty rituals, sorcery and astrology, knowledge not meant for humans. This corrupting influence mirrors Satan's role in Christian doctrine as the tempter, who leads humanity away from divine order and into sin. Just as Satan led Adam and Eve into disobedience in the Garden of Eden, Genesis 3, Azazel's teachings pushed humanity into moral decline and wickedness. 2. Azazel as a symbol of sin and rebellion. In the Levitical ritual of the scapegoat, Azazel is linked with sin and impurity. The ritual involves sending a goat into the wilderness for Azazel, symbolizing the removal of sin from the people of Israel. In this sense, Azazel represents the embodiment of sin, a role that echoes Satan's depiction in the New Testament as the accuser of humanity. Revelation 12:10. Azazel's association with sin makes him a metaphorical precursor to Satan, who is also tied to rebellion against God. Azazel and his connection to Satan. The figure of Azazel in ancient Jewish and Christian traditions shares several striking similarities with Satan, leading many scholars to draw connections between the two. While Azazel is not explicitly identified as Satan in the Bible, certain elements of his story, particularly in texts like the Book of Enoch, align him closely with the characteristics of the adversary and the tempter that Satan represents in later Christian theology. 1. The role of Azazel as a corrupting influence. Azazel's role as one of the Watchers, fallen angels, who descended to earth and taught humanity forbidden knowledge is significant. In the Book of Enoch, Azazel is held responsible for introducing warfare, teaching the crafting of weapons, cosmetics, and vanity through the introduction of beauty rituals, sorcery and astrology, knowledge not meant for humans. This corrupting influence mirrors Satan's role in Christian doctrine as the tempter, who leads humanity away from divine order and into sin. Just as Satan led Adam and Eve into disobedience in the Garden of Eden, Genesis 3, Azazel's teachings pushed humanity into moral decline and wickedness. 2. Azazel as a symbol of sin and rebellion. In the Levitical ritual of the scapegoat, Azazel is linked with sin and impurity. The ritual involves sending a goat into the wilderness for Azazel, symbolizing the removal of sin from the people of Israel. In this sense, Azazel represents the embodiment of sin, a role that echoes Satan's depiction in the New Testament as the accuser of humanity. Revelation 12:10. Azazel's association with sin makes him a metaphorical precursor to Satan, who is also tied to rebellion against God. 3. Azazel's punishment and connection to Satan's fate. Both Azazel and Satan experience similar punishments. In the Book of Enoch, Azazel is bound by the archangel Raphael and thrown into the desert to remain there in darkness until the final judgment. Similarly, Satan is cast into the abyss, Revelation 20:1-3, bound and awaiting his ultimate destruction in the lake of fire, Revelation 20:10. This parallel between Azazel's imprisonment and Satan's ultimate defeat serves to further connect their roles as agents of evil and rebellion in the divine narrative. 4. Azazel in later Christian thought and demonology. As the idea of Azazel evolved, some early Christian thinkers began to equate him with Satan or identify him as a high-ranking demon. The tradition of fallen angels, especially those who rebelled and corrupted humanity, contributed to the development of the Christian concept of Satan as a fallen angel who leads others astray. In the Dante's Inferno, Azazel is often depicted as one of the fallen angels in hell, reinforcing his connection to Satan in later Western thought. Some medieval writers even identified Azazel with Lucifer, the highest of the fallen angels, though this idea is not universally accepted. 5. Azazel, as a representational figure of evil, Azazel's character in the Book of Enoch serves as an archetype of evil and rebellion, much like Satan. He introduces forbidden knowledge, leads others into sin, and ultimately faces divine retribution. As such, Azazel's actions can be seen as a reflection of Satan's role in biblical theology. Both figures embody disobedience to God, the introduction of sin, and the corruption of mankind. In Jewish mysticism and in certain apocryphal texts, Azazel is often portrayed as an ultimate source of evil, just as Satan is later depicted as the chief adversary of humanity in Christian thought. This thematic connection between the two figures suggests that Azazel is in many ways a precursor or parallel to the figure of Satan in the broader biblical narrative of good versus evil. The significance of Azazel in culture and religion. Azazel holds a unique place in both ancient religious texts and cultural narratives, primarily rooted in Jewish and Christian traditions. In Jewish religious practice, especially through the scapegoat ritual in Leviticus 16, Azazel is seen as a symbol of sin and impurity. The scapegoat, sent into the wilderness for Azazel, was believed to carry away the sins of the people, marking Azazel as a figure linked to the removal of sin but also representing the chaos that sin brings. In the Book of Enoch, Azazel takes on a much darker role, identified as one of the Watcher's fallen angels who taught humanity forbidden knowledge, such as the crafting of weapons, sorcery, and vanity. This narrative links Azazel to the idea of corruption, as his actions are directly associated with the spiritual fall of humanity. Azazel's role as a tempter of mankind and the introduction of destructive knowledge mirrors later religious ideas about Satan and the devil. Throughout Christian demonology, Azazel became associated with the forces of evil and was sometimes identified as one of the higher-ranking demons, or even connected to Satan himself. His punishment in the Book of Enoch, where he's bound in darkness, also parallels the future punishment of Satan as described in Revelation. In popular culture, Azazel's image has evolved, often portrayed as a demonic figure, or one of the fallen angels in modern stories, films, and literature. His name and essence are frequently invoked in stories dealing with darkness, rebellion, and the corruption of innocence. Azazel's journey from the ancient rituals of Yom Kippur to the darker realms of the Book of Enoch and beyond shows us a figure deeply intertwined with humanity's struggle with sin, knowledge, and rebellion. From a symbol of atonement to a force of corruption, Azazel continues to shape our understanding of evil and the divine order. Whether seen as a fallen angel, a demon, or a symbol of sin, his legacy echoes through history, religion, and culture. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may we always seek understanding in the light, even amidst the shadows of ancient tales.